latest statement, latest tweet, as you were just saying, the president-elect's latest unsolicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight. You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you. Take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking.
Can we appreciate this in retrospect? Kierkegaard, life can only be understood backwards, yet must be lived forwards. I'm going to play this one more time, and we're going to pause it at certain key points. Forget the climax of this insanity Sunday. If you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you, or 70 indictments to get back at you. Forget that part. We'll get there at the end.
Latest statement.
First of all, look at Chuck Schumer's faux pretentious. Let me just read this tweet. This absurd tweet. Reading this now in light of Durham's report of the Russia hoax.
Tweet, as you were just saying, the president-elect's latest unsolicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight.
The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking, such a farce of a joke that the FBI should not have even initiated an investigation into it. We know that now from the Durham report. Anyway, what about the Mueller report? Well, the Mueller report predated the Durham report. And we now know that it was a joke based on evidence that was not even worthy of being investigated. We know that now. They're making fun of it at the time. Oh, he's calling into question the intelligence community. How dare he? They have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at him. Just ask JFK.
You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was
the so-called Russian hacking
delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're
it's not strange anymore. Now it actually is just confirmed fact.
Actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed.
He's such an idiot.
He's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
The intelligence community. The same intelligence community that signed off on a letter that said that the Hunter Biden laptop bore all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. The intelligence community, the same one that falsified evidence that it submitted to a secret FISA court to obtain unlawful spy warrants on Carter Page so they can spy on Donald Trump. The intelligence community that started a 3.5-year hoax of an investigation into Russian collusion. Oh yeah, he's taking them on. But if you do, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. What do you think they'll do, Chuck? I don't know. We can't really do another JFK. That would be too much. Maybe what we can do is just build on a slew of bogus accusations so that we can indict Donald Trump in an attempt to get back at him so that he somehow gets, excluded from the ballot in 2024. I don't know. Hey, Chuck, tell me what you think, Chuck.
Take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Look at that disgusting smirk on his ugly face. Duper's delight? Not so much. Just rubbing it in your face. President is not in charge. The intelligence community is in charge. And if the president takes on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you. And we're very happy about it, too.
So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
Good question, Rachel. Maybe we'll find out. Oh, what do you think they'll do? Oh, wait a minute. We're now 8 years later. What are we now? 7 years later? 6 years later? We now know what the intelligence community is going to do. Bullshit indictment after bullshit indictment. Okay. Are we live here? How is the internet? I think, I don't know why I'm no longer on the 5G, but at least the internet looks like it's working now. All right. We're live on the Rumbles. We are live on The Locals. We've got a good meme in there. Hold on. What does the meme say? I'll get to that afterwards. Standard disclaimers. No medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. When you see these beautiful things, Cheryl Gage, nice to see you again, got a new knee Thursday, right leg, walking around the house today, pretty much pain-free. Modern medicine is amazing. That is incredible. I remember when my grandmother got her knee replaced and I was visiting her in the hospital. It's crazy what modern science can do to heal trauma and to heal injury. It's also amazing what modern medicine can do to, cause a bunch of other problems. Not to sound too much like Joe Rogan. YouTube takes 30% of those things called super chats. If you don't want to support YouTube, but you want to support me, we are currently live on Rumble. Rumble has these things. Hold on one second. I hear myself in the background. Son of a gun. Rumble has these things called Rumble Rants. Same thing as super chats. Rumble takes 20% of the Rumble Rant, the Rumble Rant ordinarily, except for the rest of 2023, they take 0%. They'll go back to their 20% in 2024. So 100% of it goes to the creator. If you want to support the channel, what we do here, the absolute best place, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where we've got a wonderful community of all above average members. Members are not paying supporters. They get a ton of stuff at the community and it's beautiful. And then you got your supporters, $7 a month, $70 a year or more. Some people actually voluntarily pay more to support us. So that's how you can do that. All right. But you may have noticed starting this video, there's a little thing in the corner that said this video contains a paid promotion, because it does. And for all of those who were making jokes about Field of Greens, powdered greens in the early chat, that's what it is. fieldofgreens.com, people. It is a little known fact. You're supposed to have 5 to 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables every day, not just like once a week, every day. I do it. I sometimes sit down and I eat so much arugula directly out of the container, just like salt, pepper, arugula, so much that my body doesn't fully digest all of the leafy vegetables that I have consumed in a fit of obsessive compulsive rage. So I don't have that problem, but I do have the problem of bad habits. And so better than having a Red Bull or some sugar-packed, chemical-packed energy drink in the afternoon, a spoonful of Field of Greens has 1 serving of fruits and vegetables with all the antioxidants, all the miracle stuff in it. You take 1 spoonful twice a day, you got 2 servings of raw fruits and vegetables. I spent a half an hour on the phone with the doctor of this company to make sure it is as good as it sounded. And I asked my questions and I was satisfied. I use it. It's USDA organic approved because it's food, not supplement, not extract. And it's delicious. Looks like swamp water, but swamp water looks like swamp water because it's rich in nutrients and beautiful. But like you say, eat your roughage because nothing is better than the raw stuff, except the powdered stuff. It's the second best. And when you're traveling, my goodness, you can't find fruits and vegetables anywhere. McDonald's no longer serves salads. I had to go to a Subway, and I was like, I'll take all of the stuff you put in the sandwich. No bread, no onions. So help me God if I find onions. And that's it. That's how I got my servings of fruits and vegetables on the way down here from Montreal to the free state of Florida. So go to fieldofgreens.com. It'll bring you to Brickhouse Nutrition. Promo code VIVA will get you 15% off your first order of desiccated, powdered, pulverized fruits and vegetables. All right. Thank you very much. The link is in the pinned comment, promo code VIVA. Okay, now here's the question. The internet looks like it's actually holding up tonight. I'm no longer using my 5G connection or my EXT extension G. I don't even know. It looks like I've resolved, at least temporarily, the internet problems. Julie Giroir, thank you very much for the $13.99 super chat. Canadian. Speaking of Canadian, perfect segue, people. Until Barnes gets here. Oh my God. First of all, we've got good law tonight and we've got nasty law tonight. And the nasty, let's just say we're going to put the nasty. We're going to put the 2 Z's back in nasty when you get to this Lizzo lawsuit. All allegations, all nasty. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to what's happening in Canada. Okay, Justin Trudeau has announced Splitsville from Sophie Gregoire. That's fine. I got to show you this. Oh, okay. I'm in, that's not, okay, whatever. This was Justin Trudeau earlier this week. Don't ask questions, media. Apparently, the media was instructed not to ask about the massive welt right in the middle of his forehead. Is it a knuckle? Is it from a ring with a, I don't know, like some sort of satanic coin in it that punched him right in the head? Who knows? This bruise appeared on his head, as far as my recollection of the timeline goes, 2 days before he announced Splitsvilles from Sophie Gregoire, and rumor from the rumor mill, and it's just that. It's also rumor and perfectly plausible logical explanations. Rumor is that things were thrown, words were said. And I'm asking the question. Did he provide, he apparently, from what I understand, the half-assed explanation was he was playing with his kids. Unless he's playing paintball with his kids. First of all, I actually thought maybe he got, and I'm not saying this to be funny, I thought maybe he was doing another ceremonial participation, dressing up for a Hindi event. I literally thought that this was like the residue from the paint marking that you put in the center of your forehead when you go to a Hindi festival event. That's what I initially thought, because he's done it before, not outlandish that he did it again. It's a bruise. His explanation, half-assed explanation, playing with his kids, and unless he's playing with hammers or paintballs, that don't make any sense. But the media is not asking questions about this. Surprise, surprise. Classic narcissist, by the way. Y'all remember after his devastating news, Splitsville from Sophie Gregoire after 18 wonderful years of a phony sham of a marriage. Remember when he said this in his Instagram post? Hi, everyone. Sophie and I would like to share the fact that after many meaningful and difficult conversations, this is 2 days after the bruise on the middle of his forehead, we have made the decision to separate. As always, we remain a close family with deep love and respect for each other. I call bullshit, and I don't think that's mutual, but that may be just my own bias here. And for, what did I say? Love and respect for each other and for everything we have built and will continue to build. Oh, so you have deep love and respect for yourself, Justin Trudeau. Very, very interesting. But that's not what I want to focus on. Not the narcissism, but we're going to get to the narcissism. For the well-being of our children, we're victims here. For the well-being of our children, we ask that you respect our and their privacy. Thank you. Now, as Nora, the person who put out an interesting tweet, said, oh, yeah, you want your privacy right now when you were making me disclose the medical information of my 13-year-old kid so that he or she could go to a movie theater or go to a coffee shop? Sit and proverbially spin, Justin Trudeau. But he's asking for privacy. When was this? I think this was on Wednesday. He's asking for privacy. Wednesday. Today, holla, we're Team Barbie. That's his kid, by the way. Don't just say that's his eldest kid. We want our privacy, people. It's Splitsvilles for Sophie Gregoire. Respect our privacy during this hard time. Holla, we're Team Barbie, people. He took his kid. I think his kid is 16 years old now. Remember, privacy. But look at me. Has everyone seen I Heart Huckabees? You have to watch I Heart Huckabees. Privacy. Leave us alone during this hard. Look at me. Look at me. I'm Team Barbie. What the hell does we're Team Barbie mean? What does that mean exactly? People thinking like, oh, it's rage farming, Viva. He's just going to a movie with his kid. First of all, why the hell are you so far away from each other when it's your kid? There's a lot of people who are not going to know that this is his kid because it's an awkward pose. Because ordinarily, get in there when you have separation between the hips. That's a distant photograph. But set that aside. Respect the privacy of myself and my kids. 3 days later, look at me, look at my kids. We're Team Barbie. And what in the name of sweet holy hell does we're Team Barbie mean? Does that mean that Justin Trudeau hates men? Does that mean that Justin Trudeau is on the side of the Barbies who want to oppress and subjugate the men because they think that the men have ruined everything? Is that what we're Team Barbie means? What the hell does it mean? I don't know. All that I know is in classical narcissist, sociopathical, pathological narcissism, I'm a victim. Please give us our privacy. Also, look at me now. Victim when it's convenient. Pay attention to me when it's convenient. And by the way, if you all thought that the media was going to wait before pulling the Justin Trudeau's, National Post typically is very good. But if you all thought they were going to wait before making Trudeau the victim, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau assumes a new role Single dad, just like his own father. Oh, you mean like his own philandering father as well? His own philandering mother who had a broken marriage because of their nasty, immoral, what's the word, extracurricular marriage life? The fallout of the separation might prove more costly if the private struggles of the marriage become public. Please, I think they're going to come. Respect our privacy. Also, hashtag we're Team Barbie. All right, I can see Barnes is in the backdrop seething with anger because we're talking Barbie made more money than it should. It's a toxic agent on social cohesion, and that's the side on which Justin Trudeau finds himself, chooses to be. Amazing, very telling. All right, why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Whatever. Robert, you ready? Bringing him in, sir. How goes the battle?
Good.
Robert, he's Team Barbie. I mean, it's so fitting. He's team degeneracy, team downfall of society, and everything that was once morally beautiful. I like your vest, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, that's very nice. Okay, so hold on. You're going to tell us what we have on the menu tonight. There's so much. There's some good stuff, some better stuff, and then some just nasty stuff. But what's on the menu for tonight, Robert?
So off the top, we have a couple of bonus topics, an update in the Amos Miller case, brief update per popular request from the board, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where the live chat is up and going. And if you tip it, any $5 tip or above, we will be answering either tonight or tomorrow. Probably tonight. The other bonus topics off the top are Niger, what's happening in the coup there, sort of a brief explication, and the ongoing Twitter debate over the weekend with Darren Beatty. It was our weekend debate also at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, which was this lame idea for literacy test for voting and why that's not so well advised. Now, and then we get to the core 12 topics of tonight in chronological order. RFK sues Google and YouTube. Twitter sues over censorship. Archer testimony this week. The Trump indictment will be the big one, the most popular voted one. And we have some detailed analysis on that. False Claims Act. When is it barred and when can it be restored? Can a church, in the name of religion, steal from its own parishioners? Lyft likes to hire pervert drivers, apparently, and gets away with it. Speaking of perverts, Lizzo's facing a lawsuit of her own accord for discriminating on every grounds known to man. There's a right. Is there a right for parents to read private oracles to kids in the name of their neo-pagan religion at school? A very dangerous attempt to gut Second Amendment out of the district court in Connecticut. That is the most aggressive effort to completely take apart and destroy the legacy of Bruin. Then, in the name, of course, of that all-holy altar of gun control, Sandy Hook. Taco Bell, where's the beef? Maybe it's missing. Yashar Ali's got to pay some money because apparently he borrowed a lot and didn't pay it. And who he didn't pay it to is part of the Getty family. And then the last quick bonuses that we may only cover over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We have a big win against vaccine mandates, and the Andy No trial is ongoing in Portland.
And for those who are new to the show, welcome. I don't know how many people are new, but what we do now, we're going to start on YouTube and Rumble, end on YouTube, go exclusively on Rumble and Locals, and then after we're done on Rumble, we have our after party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. The link to Rumble is pinned, and I just shared it again. So, someone just said, what a time to be alive. I could not imagine a more interesting time to be alive, but it makes you want to pull your hair out. Robert, so you want to do an Amos? You want to do the Amos update, and we'll do the RFK censorship lawsuit on all platforms, and then we're going to end on YouTube and go over to Rumble.
Sounds good. So the updated Amos Miller case, for those that don't know, he is the Amish farmer. His case was featured by Tucker Carlson while Tucker was still on Fox and elsewhere throughout the media. The U.S. Department of Agriculture was attempting to effectively shut him down. We stepped in at the time he retained me. He was facing bankrupting fines, at an actual incarceration prison time, judgments added for other family members, his wife, and all of his properties, and massive numbers of fines. That all got resolved, and now to a pretty good degree for Amos. And now the second question was, could he get back into the meat business, at least in the distribution marketing side of the equation? Because there's other Amish farmers who the USDA has separately and independently approved in other cases for the butchering and the processing and the slaughtering and the distribution. And they're farmers that Amos has confidence in, and that his customers have an interest in getting some meat products from. And so the U.S. government, after extended negotiations, agreed this past week in a consent order that was signed by the court this weekend, that restored Amos's ability to directly market and ship. Other people will be doing the shipping, but he's the be able to market meat to his customers again, so that people will probably sometime over the next couple of weeks be able to again buy meat from Amos. It's an intermediary solution. It's not the ultimate resolution, but it's a good step in the right direction to keep his farm financially functioning and keep his audience and his community and his clientele and his customers and his members able to get the food they need. So so it's a good step in the right direction. We'll see how much further it goes along with that. For the two other brief topics, Niger, there was a military coup in Niger, just like there's been in Guinea and Burkina Faso and Mali. Might be coming one in Chad. This is throughout West Central Africa. The background is that they have internal old tribal disputes that have taken on a religious coloration, but aren't really religious in origin. But the West has treated it as indistinguishable from other Islamist insurgencies and placed their own troops there. And the way they've handled and managed the different conflicts and disputes has often led to the dissatisfaction of the local nation's military and sometimes the broader populace. And they have a lot of uranium and other resources throughout this Central African resource-rich region, and sometimes those mines and other things are located where the dissenting tribe is causing minority tribe is causing a rebellion, and often they're using it as Islam as their cover for what is really a long-standing, centuries-old conflict. The Niger was just Niger was just the latest for that collapse to occur. The French had already been kicked out of Burkina Faso and Mali. They've now been, or in the process of being kicked out of Niger, and there's talk of Europe and other African nations causing a direct conflict and intervening and sending troops in to Niger to restore the elected president. The elected president happens to be Arab, which only represents less than 1% of the country, and he had allowed French and American troops to be there. Not only were they being unsuccessful in their handling of the various insurgent movements, but they're also often doing so at the expense of the local military, which is where the conflict really arose. The other aspect of this lurking in the background is that Russia has sent in its own mercenaries, the Wagner group, repeatedly to much greater success. And that has led to people in West Central Africa cheering Putin, cheering Russia, welcoming Wagner. They see them as less problematic than French and American troops on their grounds. This is also a spillover from from the Obama administration's destabilization of both Libya and Syria, which destabilized the entire Central African region because of how the conflict spread. But that's loosely what's taking place there. But we may have another, major conflict in Central Africa. Then the latest, Vivek has an idea for a kind of a literary or civics test. Now, his test is limited by age for people 18 to 24. He wants it to either, alternative of literacy, civics, or service. The Darren Beatty and some others have taken it further and suggested there should just be a broad literary test to prohibit people from voting. That's patently unconstitutional, has already been declared as such. So you would have to have a constitutional amendment to pass it. But, Vivek comes from the caste system of India. His family does. We don't need that here in America. It's one of Vivek's dumber ideas, to put it quite frankly. I mean, why Republicans, just politically speaking, want to run on literacy tests? Because we've done this before. And it's amazing. People like Beatty seem to be completely unaware of American history. I mean, a literacy test we've been using since the 1840s, but it was in every case, it was aristocratic elites finding an excuse to keep working class populist movements from having any voters. It was mostly used in the South between 1890 and 1960, not only to keep all black voters off the polls, but to keep most working class and poor whites from voting. Mississippi in 1860 had more voters than Mississippi in 1900. I mean, when the population doubled. How is that? Well, it's because they were excluding all the poor and working class whites under the guise of literacy test and other similar comparable methods. So aside from being just opposed to it as a matter of constitutional principle, these are people that don't understand the Declaration of Independence. They don't understand will be the book of the month this month at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Common Sense by Thomas Paine, the true intellectual father of the American Revolution. Nor do they understand Lincoln at Gettysburg, the speech we covered over this past month at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. They don't understand who and what America is. That your only right, your territorial sovereignty says that the government has the right to govern you. The Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution and Lincoln and Gettysburg and Thomas Paine's Common Sense says they only derive that right if you consent to give it to them. And so that's why that's why all men being created equal and all rights coming from those people, coming from individual human beings, changes that territorial sovereignty. But these people are proposing that you could tax somebody, you could take their property, you can subject them to court proceedings, you could take away their liberty, and you could actually make them go into the draft and kill people overseas, but they shouldn't be allowed to vote because they passed somebody's ideas test of what's proper for a person voting.
But what of the idea? I noticed that Vivek sort of conducts himself like a younger Trump, and maybe the idea here is put out something that's sort of more outlandish of an idea so you can backtrack and say, okay, well, no test to vote, but at least have some decent civics classes in school so that Americans understand and appreciate.
The focus should be on education. It should not be conditioning. The idea that we should give the state. Now, I disagree with it philosophically, morally, right at its core, because it's an elitist, aristocratic idea. The other thing is politically, I oppose it because it's just bad politics and it's dumb politics. These ideas, if you dig deep, like you can just go into Darren Beatty's responses and you get a bunch of racist without fail. There's a part of the intellectual dissident right that likes to flirt, as Beatty himself he lost his White House job because he liked to flirt with these people, with racist, with white nationalist, with neo-fascist, with people who come up with ideas like let's have a monarchy again. I mean, these are ludicrous, idiotic, imbecilic notions, but they litter the dissident right for the last century, and they contaminate the more popular, more populist, more traditionally conservative ideas, more American ideas, and damage them by simple association and affiliation. And it's most recently revealed with Richard Hanania. Richard Hanania suddenly, rode Trump to social media success, gets a job at the University of Texas, and then becomes a Trump hater and a war whore and every other idiotic ideology. But he was another one of these guys that believed in some of these things and had a little subtext of racial dynamics being present. And of course, now it comes out that he's been secretly writing stuff that he was pro-eugenics, wanted to sterilize all black people, was deeply anti-Semitic. It's like, even to the people that have responded to me, I look up where else they've responded to me. They tend to that are, for these ideas. Disproportionately, they show up as Jew haters. They show up as, unusually obsessed with Israel, can have obvious racial prejudices present. But so I don't want to be associated or affiliated with any of those people. But the other problem is just practically. You have to be an idiot. You have to be an imbecile. You have to be as historically illiterate as Darren Beatty is. And again, I like a lot of what his writing is at Revolver, like a lot of his reporting. Stick to journalism, Darren, and not the idea cabinet. It's not your strong point. Who do you think's going to administer this? We know how licensing regimes work. We know how literacy tests work, right? Every single literacy test or version thereof in American history has been used to help elites screw working class people and kill populist movements. Every single one. We don't have to wonder what will happen. We know what will happen. Number one. Number two, just look around at licensing regimes today. Law, medicine, controlled by what? Access through testing. Guess who dominates those professions? Hint, it ain't conservatives. So why conservatives would embrace the aristocratic values of the professional managerial class that is going to gut them? The first person they'll disqualify from voting is Darren, because they'll say you don't have the proper understanding of things. And they would basically crush themselves, and they're too dumb to realize it.
Well, but there's a flip side to that. Someone had joked. It was once a concept, you should only be allowed to vote if you have property. The idea being if you have nothing at stake for the consequences of your vote, you shouldn't have the right to vote. Obviously,
that isn't the real reason they put in that limit, though. To be frank about it. Okay, they put that limit in because they didn't want, because there are a bunch of working class people that helped make the revolution possible that the local elites wanted to screw over in the states after the American government was formed. I mean, that's what that history was. And the Andrew Jackson movement and the Thomas Jefferson movement helped reverse that. We had universal suffrage before almost any nation in the world. And Thomas Paine, the intellectual father of the American Revolution, was for universal suffrage, including men, women, and abolition, all the way from the get-go. They almost included multiple times a statement anti-slavery in the Declaration of Independence, which is truly the founding document of American political scripture. It's the basis of it. Just having a constitution didn't make us unique. Just having, separation of powers, that didn't make us unique. No. It was the Declaration of Independence that made us unique.
I was going to say, we got a constitution in Canada. We got separation of powers and separation of powers. And then I was going to say, the flip side to that argument is the Democrat argument. We want everyone to vote. And I think, most people would agree everyone who has the right to vote should be allowed to vote, but there should be some checks and balances in that you should just make sure you are who you are when you vote and that your vote is free and enlightened. And
we shouldn't have dead people voting.
Or
we shouldn't have, people under pressure or bribed or extorted or blackmailed or somebody stealing their vote. That should be the focal point. Politically, of course, it's just idiotic to go around saying, hey, let's introduce ideas from the 1950 South. You want to get politically crushed? The number one group, whether Darren Beatty realizes it or not, pushing these ideas, it would kill Trump's chances in 2024, as well as Republicans. Yeah, because the number one group, as liberals pointed out this past week, that have moved to Trump since 2020 are non-white voters, particularly working class and millennial minority voters. Why do we want to go around and say, oh, now we think about it, we'd like to make the ballot box look like our country club? Pay a little poll tax. You have to have a certain amount of property or status to get in. You got to pass a test. It's like, this is why Republicans are constantly committing political suicide.
I think most people are saying it's not a realistic proposition anyhow. As an idea, conceptually, some people might, like the idea.
Vivek needs to keep his ideas of the Indian caste system to himself. We don't need to hear in America, Vivek.
I like
a lot of Vivek's other ideas, but that ain't one of them.
Well, I'll tell you, I was confused by Steve Deese's recent tweets over the weekend, and everyone's getting very impassioned by the apparent criminality of Trump, which we'll talk about. So some people are thinking, everyone's strategizing their own best way to deal with it. We'll get there. All right. The one topic we're going to do here, then we're going to go over to Rumble.
Is the one topic that YouTube will probably kick our video off for doing.
Bull crap. They're going to answer my question as to, Robert, now I'm thinking about it. The video that I had taken down, my interview with François Amalaga, I'm wondering now if it was a video taken down based on the updated terms of service, because when I looked at the ones that they sent me, now that I think about it, it clearly had the RFK provision in it. And I don't know when they even implemented that. Okay. François Amalaga was the Cameroonian, moved to Quebec, spent some time in jail because he refused to abide by the COVID restrictions. And maybe he was a little antagonistic in the way he went and overtly, deliberately broke the rules. But the world needs people like François. RFK Jr. is suing Google, the owning company of YouTube, it's an interesting lawsuit. I mean, like it seems that it's been argued many times. I think PragerU a couple of years back filed a similarly based lawsuit, but we've got a lot more information now than we did back then in terms of the insidious, incestuous corruption between government agencies and the social media monopolies. And RFK Jr.'s lawsuit fleshes it out. Bottom line, they're saying now that the government collusion, government coercion is known. The evidence is out. It's been disclosed in a number of spots. It's undeniable. And therefore, these community guidelines, terms of service, which are opaque, vague, ambiguous, and apparently politically implemented, are void and can't be applied, and they have to be struck down, and YouTube and Google have to be enjoined from enforcing them. And RFK does do a good job of incorporating the newly discovered elements from the Twitter files. What was the most recent one that we just discovered, Robert? Tabarnouche, I forget. But either way, he's done a good job really showing that the social media company, it's not just a private company monopoly. They have been acting at the behest of and under the coercion of the federal government, and have in that sense become an extension of the federal government, thus subject to First Amendment rights, First Amendment violations, First Amendment protections. Robert, without getting ahead of ourselves, how optimistic are you of any chance of success now or down the line? Does this force the Supreme Court to one day take these cases and render a definitive judgment?
Well, really, it's heavily predicated upon the evidence that was developed in the Biden versus or Missouri and Louisiana versus Biden, which is currently pending before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals on an expedited briefing schedule after the district court issued an injunction that the appeals court temporarily stayed, finding that there was state action. And effectively, and this comes from theories that I've had, but also primarily theories that a Yale law professor had, that basically big tech was in the state action business. First suit to really fully develop this was Robert Kennedy's suit against Facebook, that's still pending before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And basically, it's when it's state action is when there's been significant and substantial encouragement by the state, when you can basically say there's been either collusion or coercion, such that the private actor is not acting independently. And what you need is either significant encouragement or significant threats, or effectively a joint enterprise, or something comparable to it. And here, their point in this complaint is that these actual new rules derive directly from the government. The government sent the rules over, and that's how YouTube modified it. So they're like, these aren't YouTube's rules. These are the government's rules, using YouTube as its enforcement tool. Second, there's been no doubt about substantial encouragement, because they've said YouTube is killing people and responsible for mass murder if they don't do it, while also threatening that they'll lose a whole bunch of benefits if they don't make the changes requested. And there's no question also that they were targeting Robert Kennedy in particular, because there's emails, and multiple emails, that say from the Biden White House, get rid of Robert Kennedy. And the point that they're enhancing here is that now he's a presidential candidate, and that Biden has a specific motivation to get rid of him. And they allege that upon information and belief, Biden has escalated his threats to YouTube and Google to try to restrict Robert Kennedy. And for those that don't know, I mean, things like his interview with Jordan Peterson was struck. His interview with Joe Rogan was struck. I mean, popular big interviews have been knocked off of the YouTube platform. The more popular, more likely they get struck. And so even some interviews where he didn't even discuss anything related to COVID-19, which shows how, and it's not those components that are getting struck, and they're giving no notice when they strike him and no opportunity to fix it. So it's part of, they clearly feel pressure to censor and suppress the voice of Robert Kennedy as a public platform that's effectively the agent of the United States government. And so that's the evidentiary and legal theory. Now, I think there's an additional theory he may pursue at some point. There's requirements in the Federal Trade Commission laws that broadcasters, of which YouTube clearly is at this point, have to give equal time and can't intervene, can't unfairly prejudice any particular political candidate registered with the FEC. It's always been an open question whether that's enforceable in a private cause of action. To my knowledge, it's never been litigated. And so that may be something else he adds to the equation. But here he's bringing a twofold First Amendment claim, one on the grounds that it's pure speech suppression retaliation. The other is that these rules are so overbroad and vague that since they're really government rules, they violate due process requirements of notice and have overbreadth problems in the First Amendment. So it's a case he should win. It's in the Northern District of California. It's in the Ninth Circuit where there's been hostility. So we'll see if he actually does win it. But yeah, I think one way or the other, between the Missouri case, the other Robert Kennedy versus Facebook case, this Robert Kennedy case, one of these cases is going to end up before the Supreme Court.
Has nobody tried the argument of deceitful business practices? Because I mean, I know RFK.
Yeah, they've argued Section 2. His Facebook case did. They also argued RICO and everything else, and they argued section, and the court accepted, the district court did, Section 230 immunity.
All right, well, that's it. So don't anybody get your hopes up. Anyway, but it's a good lawsuit. I mean, it definitely, on the factual basis, has incorporated all of the recent stuff that we've been covering, coming out of the Missouri case, coming out of recent statements, disclosures, Twitter files, and all the rest. So. Yep. Factual basis, it's good. We'll see if it goes anywhere. And the fact that he is running for president, and when they take down Jordan Peterson's interview with him, it's obvious what they're doing.
And the reason and the reason why he's got a stronger case is not just the Missouri versus Biden precedent and evidence, but the detail of the specific exhibits that he was able to get, which he didn't have before. Mm-hmm. Now he's got specific exhibits that they are coordinated. They said, please take down everything with Robert Kennedy in it. So, and now he's Biden's opponent. So you have that additional component. You have Biden weaponizing the government to suppress the speech of his opponent through coercion on big tech and denial of the rights of freedom of speech, expression, press, and the like. And it's probably all because he doesn't want people paying too much attention to as the Trump campaign people put out this week. Every time there's been a corruption story break about Joe Biden, they indict Donald Trump within a day or two.
Robert, it's not a pattern that can be ignored anymore. I mean, you talk about the distraction, and I was having this discussion with someone just today. There's a scandal, and then they indict Trump almost exactly for what that scandal was that would otherwise reveal about Joe Biden. Someone asked me, like, why are people not talking about Joe Biden's financial corruption, ties to foreign nations, criminality that we discussed on Friday with Marco Polo? And I say, why? Because every time that happens, there's another indictment. And wouldn't you know, the indictment in New York, pretty much for the financial improprieties of which Biden and family are guilty. The quid pro quo impeachment, pretty much for what Biden did and was guilty of. And now,
the classified documents case is what Biden has been guilty of. All of it's confession through projection.
Or Goebbels, accuse your enemies of what you are doing so as to create confusion. All right, last time, people, get your butts over to Rumble. There are 3,234 people here who should all be migrating to the free speech platform, Rumble. And then we're going to get on with the rest of the show, ending on YouTube in 3. And then you can come on over to Locals afterwards. 2, come to Rumble. 1, and we're off YouTube.